Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Text 25. Sne sne uprameda buddhya dhruti gritaya atma samsam mana krutva na kinchit api chintayet.
Gradually, step by step, one should become situated in trance by means of intelligence sustained by full conviction, and thus the mind should be fixed on the self alone and should think of nothing else.
Text 26. Yato yato nischalati manasyanchalam astiram tatastato niyametat atmani eva vasamnayet.
From wherever the mind wanders, due to its flickering and unsteady nature, one must certainly withdraw it and bring it back under the control of the self.
Prashanta manasam enam yoginam sukhamuttamam upeti shanta rajasam brahma bhutam akalmasam.
The yogi whose mind is fixed on me verily attains the highest perfection of transcendental happiness. He is beyond the mode of passion. He realizes his qualitative identity with the Supreme, and thus he is freed from all reactions to past deeds.
Yunjanevam sadatmanam yogi vigata kalmasaha sukhene brahma savasam atyantam sukham asnute.
Thus, the self-controlled yogi, constantly engaged in yoga practice, becomes free from all material contamination and achieves the highest stage of perfect happiness in transcendental loving service to the Lord.
Sarva bhutastam atmanam sarva bhutani chatmani ikshate yoga yuktatma sarvatra samadarshanaha.
A true yogi observes me in all beings and also sees every being in me. Indeed, the self-realized person sees me, the same Supreme Lord, everywhere.
Yo mam pashyati sarvatra sarvam cha mai pashyati tasyaham na pranashyami sachamena panashyati.
For one who sees me everywhere and sees everything in me, I am never lost, nor is he ever lost to me.
Sarva bhuta sitam yo mam bhajati ektam astitaha sarvatha vartmanopi sa yogi mai vartate.
Such a yogi who engages in the worshipful service of the Supersoul, knowing that I and the Supersoul are one, remains always in me in all circumstances.
Atma pomayen sarvatra samam pashyati arjuna sukham va yadi va dukkham sa yogi parma mataha.
He is a perfect yogi who, by comparison to his own self, sees the true equality in of all beings, in both their happiness and their distress, O Arjuna.
Arjuna vacha yoyam yogastva proktaha samena madhusudana etasyaham na pashyami chanchaltvat sitam suram.
Arjuna said, O Madhusudana, the system of yoga which you have just summarized appears impractical and unendurable to me, for the mind is restless and unsteady.
Chanchalam hi mana Krishna pramati balvadudam tasyaham nigraham manye vayu eva suduskaram.
The mind is restless, turbulent, obstinate, and very strong, O Krishna. And to subdue it, I think, is more difficult than controlling the wind.
Shri Bhagwan Uvacha Asamsayam Mahabhavo मनोदुर्निग्रहं चलम् अभ्यासेन तु कौन्तेय वैराग्येन च गृह्यते.
Lord Sri Krishna said, O mighty armed son of Kunti, it is undoubtedly very difficult to curb the restless mind, but it is possible by suitable practice and by detachment.
असंयतात्मना योगो दुष्प्राप इति मे मतिः वैश्यात्मना तु यतात्मा सख्यो वाप्तुम् उपायते.
For one whose mind is unbridled, self-realization is difficult work, but he whose mind is controlled and who strives by appropriate means is assured of success. That is my opinion.
अर्जुन उवाच अयाति श्रद्धयोपेतो योगाचलिते मानसः अप्राप्य योग संसिद्धिं कामगतिं कृष्ण गच्छति.
Arjuna said, O Krishna, what is the destination of the unsuccessful transcendentalist who in the beginning takes to the process of self-realization with faith, but who later desists due to worldly mindedness and thus does not attain perfection in mysticism?
कच्छिनो भय विव्रतस् क्षीण ब्रह्म इव नश्यति अप्रतिष्ठो महाभावो विमुढो ब्रह्मण पथि.
O mighty armed Krishna, does not such a man who is bewildered from the path of transcendence fall away from both spiritual and material success and perish like a riven cloud with no position in any sphere?
एतानि मे संशयं कृष्ण चेतुम् अर्हसि अशेषतः तद् अन्य संशयस्यास्य चेता न हि उपपद्यते.
This is my doubt, O Krishna, and I ask you to dispel it completely. But for you, no one is to be found who can destroy this doubt.
श्री भगवान उवाच पार्थ नैवेह नामुत्र विनाशस्तस्य विद्यते न हि कल्याण कृत कश्चित् दुर्गतिं तात गच्छति.
The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, Son of Pritha, a transcendentalist engaged in auspicious activities does not meet with destruction, either in this world or in the spiritual world. One who does good, my friend, is never overcome by evil.
प्राप्य पुण्य कृतां लोकान् उषित्वा शाश्वती समः शुचीनां श्रीमतां गेह योगो भ्रष्टो विजायते.
The unsuccessful yogi, after many years of enjoyment on the planets of the pious living entities, is born into a family of righteous people or into a family of rich aristocracy.
अथवा योगिनाम् एव कुले भवति धीमताम् एतादि दुर्लभतरं लोके जन्म यद् ईदृशम्.
Or, if unsuccessful after a long practice of yoga, he takes his birth in a family of transcendentalists who are surely great in wisdom. Certainly, such a birth is rare in this world.
तत्र तं बुद्धि संयोगं लप्ते पौरो देहिकं यतते च ततो भूयः संसिद्धो कुरु नन्दन.
On taking such a birth, he revives the divine consciousness of his previous life, and he again tries to make further progress in order to achieve complete success, O son of Kuru.
पूर्वाभ्यासेन तेनैव क्रियते हि असोऽपि सः जिज्ञासु अपि योगस्य शब्द ब्रह्मावित् वर्तते.
By virtue of the divine consciousness of his previous life, he automatically becomes attracted to the yogic principles, even without seeking them. Such an inquisitive transcendentalist stands always above the ritualistic principles of the scriptures.
प्रयत्नात् यथा मानस्तु योगो संशुद्ध किल्बिषः अनेक जन्म संसिद्धस् ततो याति परां गतिम्.
And when the yogi engages himself with sincere endeavor in making further progress, being washed of all contaminations, then ultimately achieving perfection after many, many births of practice, he attains the supreme goal.
तपस्विभ्योऽधिको योगी ज्ञानिभ्योऽपि मतोऽधिकः कर्मिभ्यश्चाधिको योगी तस्मा योगी भवार्जुन.
The yogi is greater than the ascetic, greater than the empiricist, and greater than the fruitive worker. Therefore, O Arjuna, in all circumstances, be a yogi.
योगिनाम् अपि सर्वेषां मद्गतेनान्त आत्मना श्रद्धावान् भजते यो मां समे युक्ततमो मतः.
And of all yogis, the one with great faith, who always abides in me, thinks of me within himself, and renders transcendental loving service to me, he is the most intimately united with me in yoga, and he is the highest of all. That is my opinion. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Krishnagi Mataji. Thank you, Sharad Prabhu. Very nicely done. Thank you.
Thank you for allowing us. Hare Krishna.
So welcome, dear devotees, to tonight's session. We continue with our reading and discussion of chapter number 6, entitled Dhyan Yoga, Meditation. And today we shall be discussing text number 27 in a bit more detail. Anyone joining for the first time today? Warm welcome to you. So we'll recite the Mangala Charanam praise. Please, you can also join in. We unmuted mics. Om Gyanathimmirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmalitam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yatha Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatham Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutan Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sutidevi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vashali Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Namam Vishnupadaya Krishna Prashtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschachar Deshatadine. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. So text number 27. Prashanta manasam hi enam yoginam sukham uttamam upaiti shanta rajasam brahma bhuta akal masam. The word for word synonyms. Prashanta, peaceful, fixed on the lotus feet of Krishna. Manasam, whose mind is. He, certainly. Enam, this. Yoginam, yogi. Sukham, happiness. Uttamam, the highest. Upaiti, attains. Shanta Rajasam, his passion pacified. Brahma Bhuta, liberated by identification with the Absolute. Akalmasam, freed from all past sinful reactions. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. The yogi whose mind is fixed on me verily attains the highest perfection of transcendental happiness. He is beyond the mode of passion. He realizes his qualitative identity with the Supreme, and thus he is freed from all reactions to past deeds. Brahma Bhuta is the stage of being free from all material contamination and situated in the transcendental service of the Lord. Mad Bhaktim Labhate Param, 1854. One cannot remain in the quality of Brahman, the absolute truth, until one's mind is fixed on the lotus feet of the Lord. Savai Manaha Krishna Padhara Vindayo. To be always engaged in the transcendental loving service of the Lord, or to remain in Krishna consciousness, is to be factually liberated from the mode of passion and all material contamination. So the verse again, a yogi who is fixed, whose mind is fixed on me, verily attains the highest perfection of transcendental happiness. He is beyond the mode of passion. He realizes his qualitative identity with the Supreme, and thus he is freed from all reactions to past deeds. So this verse is explaining the perfection of the Ashtanga Yoga process. And what is that perfection? The perfection is to be able to fix one's mind on the lotus feet of the Lord. And when one does that, one attains the highest perfection of transcendental happiness. And one becomes, the consequence or the symptoms of that is threefold. One, we surpass or go beyond the mode of passion. Two, we realize our qualitative identity with the Supreme. And three is we become free from all reactions to past deeds. Now, someone may ask the question that this chapter and these verses are describing the Ashtanga Yoga process. But Srila Prabhupada expresses everything in terms of the Bhakti Yogi. Why is that? The simple answer is that the Ashtanga Yoga process, the culmination, the final step of the Ashtanga Yoga process is Samadhi, or spiritual trance. And before that is Dhyan, meditation. Meditation on what? meditation on the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So the culmination of the Ashtanga Yoga process is for the yogi to come to the stage of becoming completely absorbed in thought of the Lord. That's the perfectional stage. The stage is very rarely attained. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada focuses on some particular words. And in the first instance, he focuses on the word Brahma Bhutam. We read this particular phrase, Brahma Bhutam, quite often in Srila Prabhupada's purport. It also appears a few times in the Bhagavad Gita. Can anyone remember the verse that is very similar in nature to this verse, which is a very famous verse?
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Sorry.
Hare Krishna Vrindavan.
Yes, Mataji.
Yeah, it's Brahma Bhuta Prashanatma Nashauchati Nakankati Mat Sarveshi Bhuteshi Mad Bhakti Lavate Param. I think I made a little mistake in between.
You got it. Almost right. And what is the translation of that verse, Mataji?
When one is situated and they absorb in the Brahman realization, he hankers nothing. But he picks on me, and eventually he attains me.
Yes, I'll.
It's Samas Sarveshu Bhuteshu Madgati and Samas Sarveshu. So he sees everybody equally.
Yeah, Sarva Bhuteshu means living entities. One who is thus transcendently situated at once realizes the Supreme Brahman and becomes fully joyful. He never laments or desires to have anything. He is equally disposed towards every living entity. In that state, he attains pure devotional service unto me. Thank you very much, Palika Mataji and Rupa Mataji. So, so this is the stage, the perfectional stage. And it all culminates in being able to fix one's mind on Krishna. Actually, this is the perfection of the process of Krishna consciousness. Of all the yogis, who is the greatest yogi? Would anyone like to say, who are the greatest yogis?
Who fix their mind on the lotus feet of Supreme Personality of Godhead. I mean, completely absorbed in Krishna conscious devotion, pure devotional service. That's my understanding. Thank you.
Who in particular, if we have to give real life examples?
Srila Prabhupada.
The Mahajans.
Prabhupada, and in particular, who displayed the most fixed state on Krishna's lotus feet?
Narada.
Ambrish Maharaj.
The gopis.
Vishwadeva.
Gopis.
Was that you, Jayashri Mataji?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yes, the gopis. The gopis, they were so fixed on the lotus feet of Krishna that they were perceiving the blinking of their eyelids to be an interruption. So of all of the yogis, the greatest of all the yogis, and that's also the opinion of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, are the gopis. They attained the highest perfection of transcendental happiness. They were not Ashtanga yogis, neither were they Jnani yogis. They hadn't studied the Vedas. They were simple milkmaids, but they attained the highest perfection, the highest stage of perfection of transcendental happiness. So this verse, Srila Prabhupada is actually, Prabhupada gives us the ultimate understanding of every verse in Bhagavad Gita. So, and you can see in the purport, Prabhupada says, what is the Brahma Bhuta stage? Prabhupada explains there's two aspects to the Brahma Bhuta stage. One is one becomes free from material contamination. And the second is one becomes situated in the transcendental service of the Lord. So we may get many Brahma Bhutas through the Astanga Yoga process. They may come to the stage to be free of material contamination and realizing the self. The Jnani yogis can do that. But unless one becomes situated in the transcendental service of the Lord, one has not reached the final Brahma Bhuta stage. And Prabhupada says, those who reach the Brahma Bhuta stage without coming to this transcendental service of the Lord, what happens to them? They cannot remain on the Brahma Bhuta stage. One cannot able to remain. This is what Prabhupada is saying in the second sentence of the purport. One is only able to remain on the Brahma Bhuta stage when one's mind becomes firmly fixed on the lotus feet of the Lord. So this means bhakti yoga. So therefore, of all, this is the final verse of this chapter. Krishna says, that the bhakti yogis, they are the topmost. They are the topmost. I'd like to share one more verse. It's an interesting verse and an interesting purport from the Srimad Bhagavatam. Before I do that, can anyone give examples from the Srimad Bhagavatam of yogis or devotees who attain the Brahma Bhuta stage? Bhagavatam is full of this examples. Sometimes, then this is the beauty of Srimad Bhagavatam. We may hear about the Brahma Bhuta stage. And we may wonder, what does that really mean? The Bhagavatam is such a beautiful literature in that it allows us to feel what the Brahma Bhuta stage is through the eyes and the consciousness of the great devotees. The Bhagavatam is full of the words of such devotees on the Brahma Bhuta stage, and one gets a much better idea. So let's take some examples of Srimad Bhagavatam, of devotees who had reached the Brahma Bhuta stage. Anyone likes to say?
Is that Prahlad Maharaj and Chandra Prabhu?
Yes, Prahlad Maharaj. Anyone else?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. I was thinking Ambrish Maharaj.
Ambarish Maharaj, definitely.
Yes.
Jada Bharat.
Dhruv Maharaj.
Dhruv Maharaj.
Dhruva Maharaj, yes.
Jada Bharat.
Jad Bharat, definitely.
The Prachetas.
Prachetas, definitely. Prachetas.
Narad Muni.
Narad Muni, yes. Anyone else? The 9 Yogendras, the Avanti Brahman, Vidura, Maitreya. There's just
Uddhava.
Uddhava, yes, definitely. So the Bhagavatam actually gives us so much examples of great devotees who reach the Brahma Bhuta stage. And when they speak in the Bhagavatam, and all of them speak in the Bhagavatam, they reveal what they see. So I want to share one particular verse from the Srimad Bhagavatam, spoken by the Prachetas, who I think Emma Mataji quoted as an example of once on the Brahma Bhuta stage. So the Prachetas, they were directly instructed by the Lord. He was so pleased with them. So I'll read this verse and I'll read the purport because Prabhupada explains very nicely in the purport. Navyavad Hridaye Yajno Brahmai Tad Brahmavad Dibhi Na Muyanti Na Sochanti Na Rishyanti Yato Gataha. Always engaging in the activities of devotional service, devotees feel increasingly fresh and new in all the activities. The all-knower, the supersoul within the heart of the devotee, makes everything increasingly fresh. This is known as the Brahman Position by the advocates of the Absolute Truth. In such a liberated stage, Brahma Bhuta, one is never bewildered, nor does one lament or become unnecessarily jubilant. This is due to the Brahma Bhuta situation. Purport. A devotee is inspired by the supersoul within the heart to advance in devotional service in a variety of ways. The devotee does not feel acne or stereotyped, nor does he feel that he is in a stagnant position. In the material world, if one engages in chanting a material name, he will feel tired after chanting a few times. However, one can chant the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra all day and night and he never feels tired. As chanting is increased, it will come out new and fresh. Srila Rupa Goswami said that if he could somehow get millions of years and tongues, then he could relish spiritual bliss by chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. There is really nothing uninspiring for a highly advanced devotee. In Bhagavad Gita, the Lord says that he is situated in everyone's heart and that he helps the living entity forget and remember. By the grace of the Lord, the devotee gets inspiration. Tesham satatam yuktanam bhajatam pratipurvakam dadami buddhi yogam tam yena mam upayanti te. To those who are constantly devoted and worship me with love, I give the understanding by which they come to me. Bhagavad Gita 10:10. Prabhupada says something very interesting in the next paragraph. As stated, Kushala Karmanam, those engaged in auspicious activities in devotional service are guided by the Supersoul, described in this verse as Nya, one who knows everything, past, present, and future. The Supersoul gives instructions to the sincere, unalloyed devotee on how he can progress more and more in approaching the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Srila Jiva Goswami in his connection says that the Supersoul, the plenary expansion of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, exists in everyone's heart. But in the heart of a devotee, the devotee, he reveals himself as ever increasing new. Being inspired by him, the devotee experiences increased transcendental bliss in the execution of his devotional service. Now, there's two aspects of this purport I wanted to just give a little more focus on. The first aspect is that for a devotee to come to the Brahma Bhuta's platform is, in one sense, very simple and practical. Anyone who reaches the stage of Nam Siddhi, means the stage of pure chanting of the Lord's holy name, is immediately on the Brahma Bhuta platform. Simply by chanting, not having to go all of the difficulties of the Ashtanga Yoga process. We just need to come to the stage of pure chanting, Sudanam. And when one comes to the stage of Sudanam, one is liberated. Immediately one is liberated. And Prabhupada says in the purport, for such a devotee in devotional service, the super soul gives instructions on how to progress even more and more. And the super soul reveals himself to the devotee as ever increasing new and fresh. And in this way, the devotee feels transcendental, increasing bliss all the time. So this process of Krishna consciousness is, in one sense, so simple, but it can give one the highest perfectional stage of spiritual life that even the Ashtanga yogis, the Jnani yogis, they cannot achieve. So this process of Krishna consciousness is all auspicious, all auspicious. And this is what Prabhupada is explaining in these verses of the Bhagavad Gita. And let me just go back to the purport. Yes, Savai Mana Krishna Padaravindayo. This is a statement from the Srimad Bhagavatam, to fix one mind on Krishna. And Prabhupada would usually quote a verse by King Kulashekar. What is that verse? I forgot. Who remembers the verse? Let the mind be fixed. Anyway, it slipped my mind. Anyway, King Kulashekar, he prays to the Lord that let him depart now while his mind is fixed on the lotus feet of Krishna. Because he says at the time of death, it may be difficult when he's becomes choked up with mucus and he cannot breathe. He prays that he'll be able to fix his mind. But somehow or the other, for a devotee, King Kulashekar, he explains that also in some subsequent verses, by chanting the holy name of Krishna, automatically one will be able to remember Krishna. If it's one on the platform of Nam Siddhi, the perfection of the holy name. Therefore, the devotee says the biggest project or the biggest goal of one's spiritual life in Krishna consciousness is to endeavor to achieve Sudanam. That is where most of our energy and our effort should go into. Every time we chant is to pray to Krishna, to pray to Nam Prabhu, that please, please help me to realize you in the holy name. And this verse that we are speaking, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur says, when one reaches the stage of Sudanam, then automatically, without any endeavor, all of the pastimes of Krishna will enter one's mind. All of the pastimes, without endeavor, simply by chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, we'll be able to fix our mind on Krishna. So therefore, all of us, we should really make it, say, before we die. We can't stay stuck. And Satyanandan Swami always tells the devotees, how many years you've been chanting now? How many years you've been chanting? Are you still stuck on the stage of Nama Parad? It means if we're still stuck, we've not made much advancement. We have to at least come to the stage of Namabhas and eventually Sudanam. And that's it takes effort, it takes commitment to do that. So I think I'll stop here. We'll take any questions or comments anyone may have.
Prabhuji, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Namrata Mataji.
Thank you so much for a wonderful class, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, I have two questions, if that's okay.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you, Prabhuji. So, Prabhuji, you said that two things. One is come out from material contemplation and contamination, and also fix our mind on the lotus feet of the Lord. So, Prabhuji, if we constantly doing chanting, and like you said, if you're constantly chanting, wouldn't the material thing follow anyway? Because we're fixing our mind onto the Lord, and if we constantly chanting, automatically we will come away from material contamination. No,
Definitely, yeah. That is a given.
okay. Okay.
By chanting or engaging in devotional service, material contamination would go. When I read that statement, I was thinking that Prabhupada is making a very specific distinction between those who are not bhakti yogis, who become free from material contamination by some other processes, but it doesn't last for the one reason. And secondly, if they don't move to the next stage, which is serving the lotus feet of the Lord, then they've not. So yeah, for the devotee, freedom from material contamination is automatic by chanting the holy name. You're quite right.
Okay, Prabhuji, thank you, Prabhuji. And Prabhuji's second question is actually, I have a confession to make, Prabhuji. So yesterday, Shyam Hari Prabhu, the verse that he was saying about, talking about, was to make sure that when we are chanting, our mind is not bewildered and we're not thinking about all sorts of things. And Prabhuji, I have this new thing that since for a couple of weeks, actually, Prabhuji, since the Dharma, I learned about the Dharma pack and everything, that I've gone so much into reading that, Prabhuji, when I do my malas in the morning, my eyes are reading the book and my hand and my tongue is doing my mala. Is there anything wrong with that, Prabhuji?
Well, it's not the recommended process.
Yeah.
When we chant, we should chant because, we should give attention to the holy name.
Yeah.
And when we read, we read. We shouldn't do both at the same time.
Okay, thank you, Prabhuji. I'll have to stop doing the reading in the morning then. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Vrindavan Chandra Prabhu. The same sort of question Mataji just mentioned. But we can read before we start chanting to prepare our mind so that we can focus the holy name
Yes.
in a better way. So I know you mentioned that we should not be reading and chanting. We can read to clarify our mind before we chant, because Shivaram Maharaj Swami, he has written a book called Chanting More. So that really helps. If we read a paragraph or even half a page of that book, it's really helped to mind to concentrate on the holy name. So I found extremely helpful.
Yes, I was listening to a lecture recently by some senior devotees. They said they read about, the potency of the holy name, the glories of the holy name before they chant. Yeah, the point being is reading is encouraged in all circumstances, definitely, but not while we're chanting. That's the main point.
That's true. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Thank you for that
Hare Krishna.
comment.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
So this verse reminds me of the two verses of the Shishtastakam, Namna Kari Bahuda Nija Sarva Shakti, and then the Ainandana Tanuja Kim Karam. Those two verses, they seem to link to this verse.
Yes. You'd like to tell the devotees, maybe you want to get the translation of that?
Often I can't, Prabhuji. I know the translation, but
Okay.
I couldn't recite it here. So I know the verse, Ainandana Tanuja Kim Karam Patitam Mahavishme Bhavam Buddho Kripiyato Pada Pankaja Stitaduli Shantishin Diche. So it's even if you make me a speck of dust at your lotus feet, something like that. And then the other one is no matter how much, give me the taste for chanting your holy name. The first one was, Sorry, I know in my mind what.
Translation of the verse.
Thank you, Prabhu.
O my Lord, your holy name alone can render all benedictions to living beings. And thus you have hundreds and millions of names like Krishna and Govinda. In these transcendental names, you have invested all your transcendental energies. There are not even hard and fast rules for chanting these names. O my Lord, out of kindness, you enable us to easily approach you by your holy names. But I am so unfortunate that I have no attraction for them. And then the second verse you quoted was Enanda, Ahinanda Tanuja Kinkaram. And the translation of that is, O son of Maharaj Nanda Krishna, I am your eternal servitor. Yet somehow or the other I've fallen into the ocean of birth and death. Please pick me up from this ocean of death and place me as one of the atoms at your lotus feet. In some of the temples, they actually quote the Sishakshtakam before they chant the japa. I've been in a few temples that they do that. Thank you, Hema Mataji. It's a nice reflection.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Neela Mataji.
Prabhuji, what is, you were mentioning Nam, Aprad, Nam, Bhas, and Shuddha Nam. I mean, what are they?
Okay. There are 3 stages in chanting the holy name.
Mm-hmm.
The first stage is called Nam Aparad.
Mm-hmm.
It means offensive chanting. There are 10 offenses to the holy name.
Mm-hmm.
And means that while one is chanting, one commits either one or more than one of those 10 offenses. It's called the 10 offenses. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur says there is one offense he terms the 11th offense to be inattentive while chanting. And he says when one is attentive, it results in all of the other offenses. So that's the first stage. It's called Nam Aparad. The second stage is called Nam Abhas, means shadow of the holy name. It's a higher stage. It's also a very advanced stage. One gets the shadow or the glimpse of the holy name. That's the second stage. At that stage, one has overcome the offenses, and in particular the 10 offenses. And the final stage is called Sudanam, pure chanting. When one reaches the stage of pure chanting, then one is liberated. Actually, Haridas Thakur says in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, even at the stage of Namabhas, one can consider to be liberated beyond the material. So those are the 3 stages of chanting. And the purpose of human life is to come to the stage of Sudanam. But it takes practice, it takes effort, and one must be serious. We all pray, should be our prayer, to the holy name every time we chant, to the holy name to reveal himself to us. The holy name is living. His Holiness Satyanandan Swami has written a book called The Living Name. It's a very nice book.
Mm-hmm.
Does that answer your question, Neela Mataji?
Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Any other questions or comments or reflections? I have a question for you. These verses of Bhagavad Gita that we discuss and we read, what do you feel when we read these verses? Do you feel it's just theory? This is something beyond me? This is something only very, very advanced people achieve? This may take many, many lifetimes. What do you feel when we discuss, like this verse today we discussed, which talks about the Brahma Bhuta stage and the 3 symptoms of one who reaches? I'd just like to get some personal reflections. Do you see it as just theory, or are you saying, yes, I'm going to achieve this? What do you feel, devotees?
Prabhuji, if I may say, I mean, I'm not even like you say, in the nursery stage of bhakti, but I just believe that just have the loving bhakti. I mean, perfection is just far from beyond imagination. But I just feel this Shuddha love. I don't know what's the right word, but
Sudhanam.
just yeah,
Sudhanam.
Shuddhanam and Shuddh. I mean, very innocent bhakti. If somebody can do, I feel like gopis used to do. I mean, not very artistic, not very all ritualistic and right. I mean, there are people who love to do that and they are qualified. But I feel a bhakti like gopis is the best one. Where you just surrender and you just love Krishna. You just love Krishna and doing everything. So yeah, that's my take. Sorry if I don't know if I made any sense.
I think I understand what you're saying.
Yeah. Hare Krishna.
Hare
Oh,
Krishna,
just be-
Prabhuji. Sorry.
Hare Krishna, just before you ask the question, I listened to a very interesting question and answer session recently. My Guru Maharaj was giving a class with ISKCON Africa.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the devotees there, he asked a question to my Guru Maharaj. He said, Maharaj, my Guru Maharaj was about to leave his body, and his Guru Maharaj was His Holiness Bhakti Tirtha Swami. So wanting to get some personal instruction from his Guru Maharaj, he asked his Guru Maharaj to please give him a personal instruction.
Mm-hmm.
And before he departed from this world, his Guru Maharaj told him, just love Krishna. Just love Krishna. And then I'll play that video for you at some point in time. Maybe, it's very insightful. So he says, Maharaj, since I got this instruction, I'm bewildered. I don't know what this instruction really means. Just love Krishna. Just love Krishna. So my Guru Maharaj gave a very, very nice answer. He said, in Krishna consciousness, we go through different stages. We start off from Shraddha and we go all the way to Prema.
Mm-hmm.
And all along, it's the same process. It's just increasing and increasing and deepening and deepening and deepening. And he said, Prabhupada gives the example of the green mango and the ripe mango. The green mango will become a ripe mango with time and exposure to sunlight and heat. So in the same way, this instruction of just love Krishna, it's a lifetime's instruction.
Mm-hmm.
And the idea is there to fulfill this instruction completely. We have to come to the stage of prema, because that is the stage of complete love. The other ones, it's a bit mixed and so on. So in the same way, when we come to the stage of Sudhanam, automatically we achieve the stage of prema. Automatically. Yeah.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you for that insight.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Anyone else likes to share? When we're studying this Bhagavad Gita, is it theoretical? What do you think? Yerupa Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, my humble obeisances unto you. First time when I read the Bhagavad Gita, I was given the Bhagavad Gita. When I read it, I thought it was Krishna's love letter to me. It was like, wow, what is this? I've never heard anything like this in my life. So it came as if Krishna is talking to me, and it was very powerful. So I just loved the Bhagavad Gita, and I remember there's a verse somewhere where a devotee, exalted devotee, is saying that I don't want this, not sundarim, na whatever. I don't want
that. That's one of the Shishastakam prayers. Yes.
Yeah, I just life after life after life, I want to be a devotee. So that's how I feel like it's far away, like Mataji said, like pure bhakti and everything is far away at this stage, but it's just like, just loving Krishna, just It's just too powerful. I think loving Krishna is too powerful, and no matter what, I always feel like I am standing at the doorstep, but far away, but still it is very powerful. Krishna consciousness is very powerful. That's how I feel. So Bhagavad Gita is not theoretical. It is very much practical, and it's very much Krishna's instruction to us. So he's in our hearts. So that's how I feel. It's very practical. Hare Krishna.
That's nice. Hope. Yeah, we'll get there. And confidence. Srila Rupa Goswami says, hope and confidence that we will get there. So,
Hare Krishna, Vrindavan, Chandra Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Palika.
I mean, my understanding of Bhagavad Gita, I mean, we read Bhagavad Gita before Srila Prabhupada's. It didn't give so much elaborated knowledge, but now the way Srila Prabhupada has presented us this Bhagavad Gita is so wonderful. And because of Srila Prabhupada's purport, we're beginning to understand that we have a wonderful relation with Krishna. And if we become devoted and dedicate ourselves to the service of Krishna with the instruction of Srila Prabhupada, I think we'll progress. And so it is a very practical book. And because of Srila Prabhupada's mercy, we can feel that, otherwise it wouldn't be possible for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Palika Mata. You said something very significant. The Prabhupada's mercy. I think you've been in Krishna consciousness for a long time, Palika Mataji, and I'm sure as you advance, Krishna reveals more and more the meaning of his words through his devotees and through his words. So, yeah, as we advance, it comes Bhagavad Gita comes alive. As you know, I read the purport of that verse. It becomes increasing, fresh, and joyful. That's what happens. The super soul within the heart, Krishna, he reveals more and more, and everything comes clear. Yeah.
This recently, I was not in a very good health, and during this time, I had so much mercy of my Guru Maharaj, because he came to know that I wasn't well, and I always had a kind of a, with your Guru, you feel awe and reverence, and I never sort of had conversation in the WhatsApp, my Guru Maharaj. But because he came to know, so he sent me personal messages, and I felt that it was Krishna. It was Krishna, and that wonderful personal conversation with Guru Maharaj, I felt so fortunate. I just said to Guru Maharaj, I'm the most fortunate person in the world, and I just felt so wonderful. I just felt, and he gave me a very ultimate instruction, and it was beyond anything. I just felt it was Krishna giving me this, wonderful mercy. Thank you.
True, very true. Krishna, as the super soul, he manifests himself as the spiritual master.
Yes,
so you're experiencing the mercy of the super soul as Guru. There's a few yeah.
It was very, very, very nice.
Yes, wonderful. There's a few messages coming here, some nice insights. Surabhi Mataji says, Gita class is theory and technical beyond my grasp, but don't know why it brings peace to my mind, even though I don't understand anything. You may think you don't understand, Surabhi Mataji, but I feel you do. I feel you do. Otherwise, you wouldn't be feeling what you just expressed you feel. Indira Mataji writes, Hare Krishna, when I first read the Gita, did not understand, but my reading over and over, my understanding has got better, and the chat has helped me to know the love of Krishna. Very nice. Thank you for that, Indira Mataji. Pardasarati Prabhu writes, 310, the Lord created this material world to enable the conditioned souls to learn how to perform yagyas for the satisfaction of Vishnu. So while in the material world, they can live very comfortably without anxiety. And after finishing the present material body, they can enter the kingdom of God. Yes, that is one of the verses. Pardasarati Prabhu.
I just felt Prabhuji, like Hare Krishna. Like
Right.
I was reading 3.10 and 11 today, and I felt like Krishna has arranged everything for us. And he arranged devotees to help us understand things better as well. But still, we find it difficult to completely surrender to the Lord. As you explained clearly that we have been given Bhagavatam and shown the examples as well, but still we are finding it difficult to come to a point where we have to surrender to the Lord. I mean, my case, I'm just saying my case.
For many of us, surrender is a process. There are 6 limbs that make up surrender. So the first 2 limbs, when we surrender the mind. The second 2 limbs, when we surrender the intelligence. And the last 2 limbs, which makes complete 6 limbs, is when we surrender the self. Mind, intelligence, and the self. For most of us, it's a process. First, we surrender the mind. Then we surrender the intelligence. And then finally, we surrender the self. So for most people, it's a process, Prabhu. You should not worry. You should become too concerned. It'll deepen with time for sure.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Jali Mataji.
To answer your question, and forgive me if I say the wrong thing, but at first I thought reading the Gita is just another storyline, was the big hype, and I didn't understand it, obviously. But recently I got such joy and such insight into what it's saying, because I started unpicking it and saying to myself, what is it trying to say? How does it connect with my life and other people around me? And I tell you, it is amazing, but I'm still at an early stage. And, I think it's a gradual process, as you say. You don't just pluck it off the air and think it's going to be there ready for you. You have to put in some effort and make it work. Thank
you. That's wonderful to hear what you just shared. And I think it's a common experience, Joli Mataji. And, as Krishna sees our desire and intensity to want to understanding, then he reveals it. And what seemed obscure and difficult to understand, everything just starts to fit into place like a wonderful puzzle. I think that's what you're experiencing at the moment.
Absolutely, yes. Thank you.
Bhagavati Mataji writes, I become more aware of my karma and could understand why we behave in certain ways under the influence of what's it?
It's karma.
Karma, Krodh, Lobh, and Shank. Moha. I understand a lot about the senses, body, mind, and soul. Okay. So I understood you've said
that I understood this, which I was not told by anyone before, why we have to be acting in certain ways under these, the lust, anger, greed, all that sort of thing, which was not exactly explained by anyone, which we learned this from Bhagavad Gita.
Definitely. One of the realizations I've had while I'm reading the Gita, Bhagavati Mataji, is firstly, Krishna explains how we are trapped, why we remain trapped. In the second chapter, he explains about how karma binds us. Then he explains how the senses bind us. Then he explains how the modes bind us.
Yes.
Then he explains how the mind. So Krishna explains all the obstacles that stand on our path. And then he also explains how to overcome them. Just like in this chapter we've been reading, Arjuna, he said, Krishna, I don't think I can control the mind. It's more difficult to control the wind than control the mind. Then Krishna tells Arjuna, yes, you're right, it's difficult, but you can do it. You can do it by practice and detachment. So that the Lord is giving us all these beautiful instructions. He's telling us how we are caught and how to become free. And
that we came to know through Bhagavad Gita.
yes.
Otherwise, we wouldn't have known this. And it's Srila Prabhupada's, definitely, because we never knew that in depth. You know.
Definitely. Thank you for sharing that. Okay. Does anyone else want to say anything? If not, we'll close.
Prabhuji, can I share quickly, if I may, Prabhuji?
Yeah, sure.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, one of the questions that you asked was, do we think it is possible? Can we achieve this? That was one of your questions. Prabhuji, I don't know the answer to that question, but I do know that since the 1 year that I have been following it, I feel like things have changed massively in life. Well, a person like me who wanted to go out in the evening to dance or whatever with my friends, have fun, not that I ever drank, now wants to sit down and read the Bhagavad Gita. The person who was used to think, oh, I want to make nice food for my kids, now thinks, oh, what nice food do I make for Krishna? So yes, Bhagavad Gita, reading Bhagavad Gita, listening to Chad has definitely made a lot of difference in the day-to-day life, in the way I think, Prabhuji. But and also it's made me more humble. Before I was always about, oh, this is not the right thing to do. This is so unfair. It should always be the same for boys and girls. I was always that type of person. Even at work, I always wanted it fair. Now I've started to become a bit more humble and come way more humble person than I was. So yes, Bhagavad Gita has made that big difference in myself. But Prabhuji, what I could say is, I don't know whether I can achieve it or not. But what I do know is that I'll give my best effort. And I'm sure that the effort is what Krishna will look into. So regardless of the outcome, I'm just going to give my best effort.
I'll leave you with this final thought, Namrata Mataji.
Okay, Prabhuji. Haribol.
Bhakti cannot be achieved. It can only be received. You cannot achieve bhakti, we can only receive it. So it's all about doing and acting in a way that we receive the mercy of Guru and Krishna. And I'll leave that with everyone. Thank you very much. We'll conclude today's session with Vaishnav Pranam. Vanchakalpa Turubhyascha Kripa Ananta Koti Vaishnav Vrinda Ki Jai, Pada Ki Jai, O Premanandi.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Bye.